everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Zenith. And today we have been blessed by the Blizzard developers with what could be probably one of the most exciting patches to come. And this is exciting because if you don't know, if you've never played a new expansion for a while before, like right at the beginning, so what they do whilst pre-patch is coming out, they start slowly releasing the beta reworks of characters into the game leading up to the pre-patch, to the launch date. Now, they have said that this will be the launch patch. However, this is Blizzard, so we could be looking for another patch. So as always, we're going to focus solely on the tank side of reworks and tunings and everything. If you did want to see the rest of it, let me know in the comment section below. However, I do play in tank main, so the rest of it I'm not going to have much of a good opinion on. So yeah, let's get it. So kicking things off, we're going straight for the DK. So DK, Death Strike, can now only heal the DK for a percentage of damage taken from a given damage event once. Death Strike that heal the minimum health amount do not count as using damage events in this way. Unholy Strength, Rune of the Fallen Crusader, now heals 4% of your maximum HP, was 6. Enfeeble reduces damage dealt to you by 12%, was 15. Null Magic 8 was 10. An issue caused blah 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 blah. So a lot of this stuff you're going to already know if you've been playing beta or if you've been following along to the beta builds. However, it is definitely worth revisiting this. So blood, all damage increased by 10%. A new aura, coagulating blood, shows the amount of recently taken damage that will be used to calculate the value of your next Death Strike. The aura description lists the value of as a flat amount at the number, so the stacks a percentage of your current HP, which is nice. Okay. Blood Shield's cap is now at 50% of the Death Knight's maximum HP, was 100%, and cap is no longer temporarily increased by Vampiric Blood. Bone Shield increases your armor by 100% of strength, was 80%, so that's a little bit of a buff, I guess. Leech Strike now hits you for 0.25, so 50% nerf. Dancing Rune Weapon increases parry chance by 35%. Each active Dancing Rune Weapon generates 3 runic power when mirroring Heart Strike, was 5. Everlasting Bond increases Dancing Rune Weapon's duration by 6 seconds, was 8 seconds. Blood Drinker reduces all damage the enemy deals to by 15%. Bone Shield damage increased, Bone Storm damage increased by 20%. Bone Storm heals you for 2% of your maximum HP, was 3%, up to a maximum of 10%, was 15%. Bone Storm now consumes up to 5 Bone Shields, was 10. Bone Shields now last 2 seconds per Bone Shield. So if you remember on the last patch that we looked at, this was a very recent change. So it's kind of works the same, right? Because Bone Shield now consumes up to 5 Bone Shield charges, was 10, or Bone Storm, sorry. And Bone Storm now lasts 2 seconds per stack, was 1 second. So essentially, it's going to do the same thing, but you just need less Bone Shield charges to be able to activate Bone Storm at max capacity, which I guess is going to be a nice change because you don't need the 10, but we'll have to wait and see. Consumption's Blood Plague, now damage occurs 30% more quickly, was 50%, and duration reduced to 6 seconds, was 8. Rapid Blood Plague and Death and Decay now deal 15% faster, was 18%, and increases per stack by 25%. So as you can see, there are some nerfs, there are some buffs, but this is now bringing our characters in line with what's currently on beta. So this is quite nice to have this now going live. Obviously, when it's going live, we don't have our hero talents, so these classes are going to feel different if you have played on beta, so don't expect Blood DK to feel exactly the same, but it's nice to see these changes coming through. TH, Live by the Glaive now restores 2% in maximum HP, was 4. Vengeance, all damage increased by 15%, Thick Skin increases stamina by 60, Demonic wards reduces physical and magical damage taken by 8 was 10. Soul Cleave healing reduced by 20%. Frailty heals for 8% damage was 10. Void Reaver reduces damage you take from targets afflicted by frailty by 3 was 4. Illuminated Sigils grants 12% parry was 15. Dawn of the Flame reduces fiery brands damage cooldown by 12 seconds was 15. Metamorphosis increases your maximum HP by 40 was 10. And the Darkler boon now refreshes 15 to 30% was 20 to 40. And refunds 15 to 30 was 20 to 40. So obviously, if you've been living under a rock, you'll know, or you won't know, but you should know, Blizzard want to make tanks and healers, like healers, actually more impactful when it comes to Mythic Plus. This is a good and a bad change in my opinion. Like, as we can see, they're nerfing mitigation for tanks and self-sustain, like for both Blood and Vengeance Demon Hunter. They are increasing the damage, so damage-wise, we're still going to be pretty decent, but they are reducing your mitigation. So do keep that in mind, especially if you have been mucking around with Mythic Plus in pre-patch. All of a sudden, next week, your character's not really going to be as strong as it was in terms of mitigation, so just keep that in mind. Regrowth initial heal increased by 27%, and its healing over time decreased by 3%. Swiftmen healing increased by 38%. Ironfire increases armor by 112%, if agility was 120%. And then Guardian, flat damage increase and auto attacks by 20%. Moonfire damage reduced by 15%. Twin Moon increases Moonfire damage by 8%. Reinvigoration reduces frenzy regeneration cooldown by 10 to 20 was 20 to 40. Earth Warden reduces damage taken by 25 was 30. Survival of the Fittest reduces cooldown by 12 to 24 was 15 to 30. Tooth and Claw reduces damage taken by 12% was 15. After the Wildfire triggers after spending 300 rage was 200. Urso's Fury grants a shield equal to 25% of your Thrash and Maul damage was 45%. Elun's Favor heals for 25% was 40. Rage of the Sleeper reduces to 8 seconds was 10. Rage of the Sleeper's damage taken reduced by 5%. Rage of the Sleeper's Leech was also reduced by 5%. Pulverizing duration is now 8 was 10. Urso's Guidance reduces the cooldown of Incarn with Incarnation of Ursot by 1 second for each 25 rage spent was 20. Frenzy regeneration heals you for 20% was 32. Like, that is huge. Dream of Scenaris increases the healing and effectiveness regrowth by 130% was 200. Fixed in issue with the increased amount of rage required to trigger after the wildfire. So again, we're just destroying tanks mitigation basically. We're going to skip all of this down to Monk. Healer Elixir now heals for 10% was 15. Yolanda's Grace grants an absorb equal to 1% was 2. Every 3 seconds was 2. Healing Winds restores 10% was 15. Clash is now 1 minute cooldown was 45 seconds. Brewmaster Mastery. Elusive Brawler chance to dodge reduced by 12%. All abilities increased by 15%. Brewmaster balance increased armor by 45 was 25. That's quite a nice buff, I have to say. But anyways, Celestial Fortune heals you for 70% of the amount healed was 80. Amount of damage staggered is increased by 5%. Percentage of magic damage staggered increased to 58 was 45. Dance of Wind chance to dodge reduced by 5 was 10. Stagger strikes healing reduced by 20%. Spirit of the Ox chance to summon a healing sphere reduced by 40%. Elixir of Determination heals reduced by to 30% of recently purified damage was 50, or a minimum of 8% of your maximum health was 20. Celestial Brew healing reduced by 10%. Pretense of instability grants 10% dodge was 15. Dance of Wind, chance to dodge reduced by 5. Detox now costs 10 energy was 20. Chi Wave damage reduced. Chi Burst damage reduced by 10%. Chi Burst was actually procking, like was doing really, really well on beta, so it's quite interesting to see that that one has been nerfed as well. Paladin, Lightforged Blessing now affects 2 additional allies, was 4. Flash of the Light increased by 20%. Shield of the Crusader now healing increased by 50%. Shield of the Righteous increases the armor by 160. Alphiel Strength was 170. The Dusk buff from Of Dusk and Dawn reduces your damage taken by 4% was 5. Sanctified Plates armor increases no longer applies to bonus armor from Shield of the Righteous. Protection all damage increased by 15%. The damage reduction effect while standing in Consecrate of Mastery Divine Bulwark is now reduced by 20%. Improved Holy Shield increases your chance to block by 8 was 10. Sentinel's duration reduced to 16 was 20. Eye of the Tyrants reduced to 6. Righteous Protection, Holy Power abilities reduced the cooldown by 1.5 was 2. Ward of Glory increased healing by 300 was baseline 250. Bulwark of Order now shields you for 60% was 50%. Now I wonder if when this goes live on pre-patch, I wonder if you're going to go as a prot. If you haven't played beta right now as prop ally, you can actually go and you have the drink. So it would be interesting to see whether that actually is a change or not. Shield Slam damage for warriors increased by 8%. Pain and Gain now heals for 2% was 3.5. Protection, melee attacks increased by 30%. Ravage damage increased by 25%. Execute damage increased by 50%. Devastation damage increased by 25%. Shield Slam's primary target damage increased by 25%. Ravage damage increased by 25%. Defensive damage reduces damage taken by 16% was 20. Fight Through the Flames causes defensive stance to reduce magical damage you take by 6. That's a buff. Keep that in mind. Into the Fray increases the haste by 8% was 10. Punish reduces damage enemies deal to you by 2 was 3. Endurance, stamina and armor percent by 8. This has been nerfed by 4%. And again, 1% of 20 rage was 10. Defenders Aegis reduces the shield wall's cooldown by 60% was 30. Impenetrable Wall causes Shield Slam to generate an additional 4 rage was 3 rage and reduces the remaining cooldown of Shield Slam by 6 seconds was 5 seconds. Disruptive Sail cooldown increased to 90 was 75 seconds. Impending Victory heals you for 20% was 30, so that's a 10% nerf. So overall, basically, we're just bringing beta to retail. That is it. So in terms of buffs, nerfs, and everything like that, if anybody's worried about it, if you've played beta, like recent beta anyway, this is what your character's going to feel like. But just keep in mind, you do not have your hero talents. So you're only going to be playing baseline of all the characters until we get the War Within release and we reach level 71. Then is when you get your initial kick of that to come in. So it's going to be an interesting shout when this comes in. Obviously, for people that have bought early access to the expansion, it's only 1 week until the expansion comes out anyway, which feels weird saying that, but just keep that in mind. Next week is going to be some interesting time to play around with things. Items Cross-Realm Guild Bank functionality is now available. Thank God for that. High Inquisition, whatever that is. PvP changes. I mean, like, there's a nice amount of PvP changes, by the way, I have to say. User interface, so they finally fixed a bunch of issues on the interface. Group Finder, they've just included the new icons, which is great. Professions, questing UI, UI art, and many other different things. So overall, I mean, it's not too much of a new content in terms of the buffs and nerfs. We already knew, like, if you've been following along with beta, you would already know most of this. However, this is super exciting. It kind of makes the expansion feel real, in my opinion, when they start releasing the beta updates into retail, or into live, I should say. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the tanks. I personally am on the fence between Vengeance Demon Hunter right now on beta is looking way too good. Like, damage wise, it's looking broken. Mitigation wise, it does lack a little bit, but there is talk on the street of it being more of a kiting meta, because obviously we're now relying more on the healers to keep the tanks alive. But I do see Warrior is looking pretty juicy, I have to say. I wouldn't count Warrior out just yet. DK is looking really, really good. Blood is always good in lower keys. Higher keys, it does struggle, but again, we need to see what happens when, I mean, the reason, in my opinion, why they brought back Heroic Week, if you don't know, yes, there will now be a Heroic Week, and then Mythic will be released the week after. Mythic Plus isn't coming out until Mythic actually gets released, which I guess they've done in a way to not aid the raiders, so they're not just spamming Mythic Plus, but I guess we'll soon find out about that one. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting expansion release. Like, you can't even do Mythic 0 until the raid gets released, if my memory serves me correct, which I'm pretty sure it does. So it's going to be an interesting one. I feel like they're allowing people to gear or to level their characters a lot faster. Obviously, we get the buff every time we get a max character. We get a percentage increase on the XP. So I think it's going to be a nice release. I think it's going to be a different release. Normally, when release happens, you're spamming that character to max level. After week 1, you start doing Mythic 0, and so on and so forth. But it's going to be an interesting way to see them release these expansions. I'm super stoked anyway, but let me know in the comment section below what your thoughts are. Make sure to like and subscribe as always, and I'll catch you all in the next one.